for a guilty verdict. I think it makes us all feel safe and thankful that they did their job.
Today on the Morning Edition, a final verdict, tears, relief, and justice at an Anchorage courtroom as a jury decides the fate of a man who admitted to pulling the trigger. Plus,
9 million veterans are watching you give them the middle finger.
hundreds of Veterans Affairs workers are out of a job as President Trump makes good on his promise to shrink the government. We'll have a look at how that will affect you. And later, love may be priceless, but Valentine's Day sure isn't. Americans are expected to drop a record amount this year. We take a look at the numbers to see just how much it costs to say, I love you, as the Morning Edition starts now. And good morning, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day on this Friday. I think last year it was on a Thursday. Yeah, because we go the day up. And
honestly, I can't remember when the holidays are through the year. I do remember when it's not a leap year. It's usually the day after.
Yeah.
So, but you know,
well, people have plans and want to get out and about and be out on the town weather-wise.
Well, we do have some light snow that's falling across parts of south central. Clouds have moved in, and as you step outside this morning, you'll notice it's not as chilly as previous mornings as we've been seeing those temperatures below zero, some single-digit lows this morning. We're actually hovering near 20 degrees here at Ted Stevens. We do have some, looks like some low-level fog as you head out towards Eagle River Valley. 19 degrees currently in Anchorage with winds out of the north-northwest at 8 miles per hour. Those clouds moved in through the night. We've got that moisture still with us. And, of course, the heaviest snowfall continues to impact Prince William Sound and then out through parts of the Copper River Basin. Temperature-wise, you can see practically everyone sitting in the upper teens and 20s this morning. Now, parts of the Copper River Basin and then the Glen Highway, as you head out towards Eureka, you can see still sitting in the single digits, but still warmer compared to where we've been the past previous mornings. And that's largely due to the active weather returning to the Gulf of Alaska, returning to that southerly flow that's pulling in some of those moisture as well as that warmth. And you can see this morning, we're also watching some areas of wintry mix out towards Cordova, from Valdez, Cordova, out towards Whittier. We still have the potential that we'll pick up several inches of accumulation. Unfortunately, like we were talking about yesterday, areas from Anchorage, southern parts of the valley and down to western parts of the Kenai, largely staying on the drier side. Now, looking out towards, through Turnagain Pass, out towards Summit Lake, looks like those road conditions for the most part fairly clear, but be prepared for some additional snow throughout the morning hours into the afternoon. And looking at that snow total forecast, still favoring, again, coastal regions, Copper River Basin out towards Yakutat, where we'll pick up several inches of snow accumulation. And then due to upslope flow in the Susitna Valley, as upslope flow tends to enhance precipitation, we're also going to see several inches out towards Talkeetna, Trapper Creek, and areas west of the Parks Highway. But there it is from Palmer out towards Wasilla down through western parts of the Kenai. May just see a spit of some snow flurries throughout the day with some light accumulation looking possible. Still seeing that potential for up to a half an inch in some locations, but most staying dry. I'll have more on that in that 7-day forecast for you coming up.
And we begin with breaking news. An early morning vehicle fire. It shut down a road just east of downtown Anchorage. Police say the fire started around 2:50 this morning near Gamble Street, prompting firefighters to close Ingra Street, which is now back open. But 5 police units responded to this scene as firefighters worked to contain the flames. Officials have not yet released details on what caused the fire or if anyone was injured, but be sure to keep it to Alaska's news source for updates. And new this morning, President Trump continues his quest to reduce the size of the U.S. government. Hundreds of federal workers received layoff notices, with more expected. This as the president threatens more executive orders for reciprocal tariffs, which will cost you money. Jared Hill has what you need to know.
This morning, hundreds of federal workers are out of a job, and thousands more are bracing for sweeping layoffs. Speaking virtually at a World Summit Thursday, Elon Musk, head of President Donald Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, said entire federal departments should be deleted.
If you don't remove the roots of the weed, then it's easy for weed to grow back.
CBS News has learned recent federal hires still on probationary status across several departments have received termination notices. Same for about 1,000 workers at Department of Veterans Affairs as of yesterday.
9 million veterans are watching you give them the middle finger. And we're not going to stand for it.
U.S. officials have also confirmed that DOJ employees are examining the IRS. Though yesterday President Trump told reporters he doesn't plan to close the agency.
It's just about everybody's going to be looked at.
The president also signed an executive order directing his administration to look at imposing tariffs to match those that other countries put on U.S. goods. Critics warn it could hurt efforts to fight inflation.
Prices could go up somewhat short term, but prices will also go down.
The president argued those reciprocal tariffs would level the playing field for American workers. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Those federal layoffs are hitting Alaska hard as cuts impact national parks and forests. Now, some employees in the Tongass and Chugach National Forests have already lost their jobs, and more may follow. Lee Hart, executive director of the Alaska Outdoor Alliance, says a reduced workforce could hurt the state's $3.1 billion recreation economy. She warns it may impact tourism and the communities that rely on seasonal workers. So far, no official comment from national parks or forest officials here in Alaska on how deep these cuts will go.
I think we can anticipate maybe lesser visited facilities closing or curtailing hours. I think the level of service is in jeopardy.
Layoffs beginning this week, they are stemming from the executive order President Trump signed earlier this week to implement efficiency plans made by Elon Musk's department. Meanwhile, a judge extended funding for USAID programs, preventing an immediate shutdown. The decision keeps critical aid flowing while legal challenges continue in Washington. This ruling could have a direct impact on Alaska, where USAID-funded programs support economic development and tribal communities. Officials are watching closely for long-term solutions. And this morning, an Anchorage family is waking up with some closure as a jury found a man guilty on all counts after he shot and killed an apartment manager over a dispute about his lease. Lauren Maxwell was in the courtroom as the verdict was read.
Hugs and tears outside the Anchorage courtroom as family members of Josiah Gerker reacted to the jury's verdict.
We're just incredibly thankful that the jury came back so quickly and for a guilty verdict.
There was never a dispute that Jesse Jones shot and killed Josiah Gerker in October of 2023 after learning his lease at the Alpine Apartments would not be renewed. The state said Jones's intent was very clear.
He went down to that leasing office to kill Mr. Gerker. That was his plan from the moment he walked in the door.
Jurors watched a security video of Jones entering the leasing office.
He's got his gun in the right pocket. He's got the notice of non-renewal in his left.
The video goes on to show Jones firing his gun. Jurors also heard Jones confess to a detective about his intent to kill.
I went in there with ill will, no intentions.
And you went in there to do what?
To kill him.
To kill him?
Yeah.
Jones's attorney urged jurors to consider a lesser charge, saying his client was distraught at the thought he and his pregnant girlfriend could end up in the cold.
But in my client's perspective, he felt targeted. He felt nobody cares.
But it took jury members only an hour to decide Jones was guilty on all counts. It's a verdict the family says may help them to heal. Lauren Maxwell, Alaska's news source.
And sentencing for Jesse Jones is set for July 11th. Prosecutors say that he could spend anywhere from 30 to 99 years in prison. Well, 1 week after the deadly crash of Bering Air Flight 445, an Alaska's news source has learned the NTSB added 2 in-person meteorologists to their investigative team. The chief of the NTSB's Alaska Regional Office told us while that's not always typical, it is an option that they reserve for crashes like Flight 445, where he says the plane was flying in severe winter weather conditions.
We're still very much in the formative stage of the investigation.
NTSB's Clint Johnson says they've made significant progress. Part of that includes adding those 2 forensic meteorologists to their 17-member team. He says they'll be able to provide expert insight into how exactly weather could have played a role in the crash.
Primarily what that meteorologist is going to be doing is what kind of weather products were provided to the company, what kind of weather products were provided to the flight crew in this case. So they're going to be interviewing some of the forecasters, the weather forecasters. We want to make sure that this flight and this pilot had all the pertinent weather information to be able to make that go, no-go decision.
Johnson says the specific information the pilot was receiving is a key part of what they're investigating. The NTSB expects to release a first report by the end of the month. 10 people died in that plane crash. Families have sent us their photos, which you see here. As we honor them and learn more about the investigation, you can always find updates on our website. Covering the interior, Fairbanks North Star Borough Mayor Grier Hopkins is pushing to increase school funding as the district there struggles with a multi-million-dollar shortfall. It marks another year of rising education spending, but as Adrian Peterson reports, not everyone is on board, and some assembly members fear the plan could leave taxpayers holding the bag.
As the school district faces a $16 million budget deficit, Fairbanks North Star Borough Mayor Grier Hopkins is proposing a borough contribution of $60 million to the school district. This is a $2 million increase over last year, and some members of the Borough Assembly are skeptical of the proposal.
What I also proposed was to use additional earnings from our interest, from our savings accounts, and savings that we saw in our budget in the current fiscal year to forward fund education by $5 million for FY27. So the $60 million is going to be for fiscal year 26, and then additional $5 million will set aside so it's available for FY27.
Mayor Hopkins says the additional interest allows the borough to provide more education funds without impacting taxpayers. This would be the fourth consecutive year the borough has increased education funding. In that same 4-year time period, the district has closed 7 schools. One assembly member is concerned if the plan passes, it could mean they have to pay for the closed buildings and could be on the line for demolition costs if the buildings are not repurposed.
I don't know how much that's going to cost, but after looking at the experience we had with the Polaris, I don't know. Is that going to involve environmental impact statements? Are we going to have to transport the bricks and whatever to Washington State? Is that something that can be resold and used here? I don't know.
While those concerns about needing to budget for closed schools remains difficult to address, Hopkins says the borough is already trying to get ahead of that issue. The borough budget will be submitted in the first week of April. Adrian Peterson, Alaska's news source.
Coming up, when seconds count, 911 dispatchers are always ready to answer the call.
Are you able to wake him?
Anything can happen. You can have it, like, depending on what shift you are or what time of day it is.
But in Fairbanks, emergency dispatchers are feeling the pressure with staffing shortages. How the city hopes to help.
Snow continues to fall across parts of South Central. Very light accumulation expected for Anchorage and surrounding locations. I'll have more on that in your interior weather. But first, the sunrise, 8:43 in Anchorage, 8:51 in Fairbanks. Your full forecast is next.
Well, good morning, everyone, on this Friday. Happy Valentine's Day. It was certainly a perfect day to grab your skates and take to the ice. Photojournalist John Perry caught some of the sights and sounds of Alaska at Westchester Lagoon in Anchorage.
Sit down. Oh, good. Oh, you're so good.
That is photojournalist John Perry bringing us the sights and sounds of a nice, cold, crisp winter day. And at Westchester Lagoon, Aaron, looks like it was cold enough for that to freeze over and obviously let people ice skate.
Yeah, get out there, do as much ice skating as possible because we do have warmer weather heading our way. We're talking about temperatures climbing back above freezing as we welcome in next week. Now, this morning in the interior, waking up in Fairbanks, 3 degrees, breezy winds continue. Yesterday, you saw winds upwards of about 30 miles per hour. We'll still hold on to some of those breezy conditions. Currently, though, you can see feeling more like 14 below when you factor in those winds. Across the rest of the interior, 11 below in Fort Yukon, 17 below in Eagle. For the most part, many locations are sitting on the warmer side compared to where we've been from the past previous mornings. We are going to continue to hold on to this warming spell taking hold really from the interior down through south central and southeast as we see the return to a more active weather pattern. Now, for the most part, dry conditions to be expected for Fairbanks. Those temperatures will warm into the teens later today. Likely could see some locations climbing into the mid-teens. Those winds yesterday certainly helped mix out some of that colder conditions and led to some warmer weather. So don't be surprised if we see those temperatures climbing into the mid-teens. We're talking about a high of about 14 degrees today in Fairbanks. Then you can see those temperatures into next week. They hold steady in the low to mid-teens, and then by the middle of the week, we'll see those temperatures warm back into the low to mid-20s. That's also when we're going to see here in South Central those temperatures warming about 10 degrees above what we'll see through parts of the interior. Now, looking at the overall forecast for the state, there's that upper level low, this circle of purple that you're seeing, that is sweeping to the west. This upper level low is a big contributor to driving in those northeasterly winds that have been breezy through the interior. We've seen some winds out towards western Alaska with some of those stronger winds out towards the slope. So that upper level low stays with us here over the next couple of days. But notice south central out towards southeast, we begin to see somewhat more of a ridging pattern take hold. This is going to lead to some warmer conditions here as we welcome in the weekend and into next week. Still windy across the state, anywhere from 20 miles here in Anchorage to upwards of about 55 mile per hour winds as you head from Point Hope out towards Delta Junction. And that is that persistent northeasterly flow. So that's continuing to contribute to some of those cooler conditions. While we're not seeing any significant winds across south central, we have been holding on to some of that light snow. Now, this is out towards the Glen Highway in Palmer, and you can see some light snow has been coating the roadways, just some flurry activity for the most part through the overnight hours. And that's what you can expect to see as you get out on the roads this morning. Not expecting much in the way of snow accumulation. As we were talking about yesterday, southern parts of the valley, Anchorage down through western parts of the Kenai. At best, we could see an inch of snow accumulation, but I think most locations will see less than a half an inch. Those temperatures holding in the teens and 20s for the first part of the morning. No significant concerns on those roadways. However, you are heading through Turnagain Pass. Be prepared for the possibility for some of those slick roads. Temperatures in the 20s and the 30s out towards southeast. Snow north with some flurries elsewhere across the Panhandle, and we are expected to see that 7-day forecast showing those warming temperatures. You can see here across South Central, upper 20s, lower 30s into the weekend. President's Day near freezing. Next week, mid to upper 30s. Remember, I was talking about get that skating in now because we've got warmer weather taking hold, and it likely will continue through the close of the month.
Yeah, it'll make a big difference. All right, thanks, Aaron. Well, covering the interior, Fairbanks emergency dispatchers are struggling to keep up as staffing shortages continue to take a toll. Hoping to attract new recruits, the City Council is once again offering hiring bonuses. Alex Bengal went inside the dispatch center to see firsthand how these vacant positions impact emergency response.
With 4 positions out of a total of about 23 currently unstaffed, the center is offering a $15,000 sign-on bonus for dispatchers.
Anything can happen. You can have, depending on what shift you are or what time of day it is, it could just not be as busy or as many calls, but you have to always be prepared for what can happen and what could be on the other end of that phone line.
Are you able to wake him?
Brenda Geyer has been at the center for around 15 years. Working with fire departments, medical services, and police, she helps people in crisis.
I have delivered 3 babies on 911.
Adjusting to current staffing levels has required workers to take on extra hours and shifts. And while dispatch manager Christy Meredith says they are fully able to complete their mission, the situation can take a toll on dispatchers' personal lives.
The more hours that we have to work, the more work-life balance we have. Things become difficult in our personal life. But it's not affecting the service that we're able to provide to the public.
The hiring incentive was first started in 2019. It lapsed at the end of last year.
In a unanimous vote this week, the City Council decided to extend the bonus program through the end of this year. Alex Bengal, Alaska's news source.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcasts from Alaska's news source automatically and stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.